I had a bit of an existential crisis getting dressed this morning. I pulled open a drawer, and there it was, that name. It was on the waistband of my underwear. Then I went to the bathroom, and there it was again, on a bottle of cologne. It's reached this point where the letters Calvin, Klein, don't even register as a person's name anymore.
Okay.
It's just a noun. It's an object. It's a font.
That is a very specific type of fame. It's the kind where the brand effectively cannibalizes the human being.
Yes.
You stop thinking about the creator and start thinking about the commodity. It's like Ford or Disney. You don't picture Henry or Walt, you picture a truck or a mouse.
Exactly. But if you stop and ask the average person on the street, who is Calvin Klein? Not the brand, the guy.
Yes,
What do they say?
I have no idea. What would they say?
They probably picture a billboard model or maybe just a vague silhouette of a designer. They certainly don't picture a Jewish kid from the Bronx born during World War II.
Which is a massive oversight, because Calvin Richard Klein is not just a logo. He is a very real, very complex figure born in 1942 who didn't just participate in the American sportswear industry. He fundamentally rewrote the operating manual for it.
And that is exactly why we are here. The mission for this deep dive is to rescue the man from the marketing. We are going to peel off the labels, literally and figuratively, and look at the biography. We want to trace that arc from the Bronx tenements to the absolute apex of global high society.
And we have to do this by looking at the hard data.
Real.
We aren't interested in the gossip column rumors today. We are looking at the biographical records, the business filings, the real estate portfolios, and the verified timeline of his rise.
Right.
Because when you strip away the airbrushing, the story is actually much more interesting. It's a story about hustle, about architecture, and about a very specific vision of America.
It's the ultimate American rise, really. I mean, we are looking at a trajectory that goes from a $10,000 loan to a global empire. But unlike some business stories where the founder sort of flails around trying to find a product, Klein seemed to have this singular obsession from day one.
The clean look.
The clean look.
That is the thread that ties the 1960s to the 2000s. While the empire expanded into underwear, jeans, perfume, home goods, the aesthetic, the core DNA remained incredibly disciplined. So let's unpack where that discipline came from.
Let's go back to the beginning. We are dropping into the Bronx. It's November 19th, 1942. Calvin Richard Klein enters the world.
And we have to set the stage here. This isn't the Bronx of hip-hop legend yet.
Not at all.
This is the Bronx of the immigrant working class. Klein is the son of Leo and Flora Klein. His mother's maiden name was Stern.
And digging into the genealogy, this is a classic European Jewish immigrant story. His father, Leo, wasn't just a guy from the neighborhood. He was an immigrant from Boyani.
Which was in Austria-Hungary at the time.
Right, which is now modern-day Ukraine. And his mother's family came from that same region, Galicia and Bukovina.
Why does that geography matter to a fashion designer? Because it speaks to the mindset of the household. This is the post-immigrant generation. You have parents who came from instability in Europe to build a fortress of stability in New York. There is a specific, intense work ethic that permeates that environment. It's not just about working hard. It's about establishing yourself. It's about validity.
Right. It's that pressure to make it. You aren't just working for a paycheck. You are working to justify the journey your parents took. But here's the thing that baffles me. He wasn't the only one. If you look at the map of the Bronx in that specific era, it's like there was something in the water supply.
The Bronx cohort. It is one of the most fascinating coincidences, or perhaps not a coincidence at all, in fashion history.
It's statistically wild. You have Calvin Klein. You have Ralph Lauren, who was born Ralph Lifshitz, literally growing up in the same borough in the same Jewish community around the same time. You also have Robert Denning, another massive interior design influence.
It forces us to ask,
Right.
Why there? Why then? You have these titans of American-style capital S who would go on to define what America looked like to the rest of the world.
Right.
Ralph Lauren defined the preppy West-PY Western aesthetic. Calvin Klein defined the modern, urban, minimalist aesthetic. And they were neighbors.
It completely destroys the idea that you need to be born in a Parisian salon to understand luxury.
In fact, it suggests the opposite. It suggests that growing up in the Bronx gave him a specific kind of hunger. They weren't inheriting a style, they were dreaming one up.
That's a great way to put it.
They were outsiders looking at the American dream and designing the costumes for it. Ralph Lauren designed the clothes for the life he wanted, the country clubs he wasn't born into. Klein designed the clothes for the life he wanted, the sophisticated, clean, uncluttered urban existence.
That is such a key distinction. They were creating their own avatars. So Klein is in this incubator. He attends JHS 80. But he clearly isn't interested in just being a neighborhood kid. He decides to commute to Manhattan for high school.
Which is a big deal for a teenager in that era. A big decision.
Huge.
He goes to the High School of Art and Design. That shows early intent. He wasn't stumbling into fashion because he failed math. He knew he wanted to create.
From there, he matriculates to FET, the Fashion Institute of Technology, the Harvard of the Garment District.
Well, the Harvard of the trade, certainly. But here is where the biography gets messy, in a way I appreciate. It wasn't a straight line. He actually dropped out.
The dropout detail. I feel like every great entrepreneur has this chapter.
After his first year, he left for 6 months. The records don't give us a dramatic reason, no scandalous expulsion or tragic accident. He just stopped.
Yeah.
But he did eventually return to finish the degree. It shows resilience.
And I'm guessing the school eventually came around.
Oh, more than came around. He received an honorary doctorate from FIT in 2003. So they forgave him.
So he has the degree. He has the Bronx ambition. Now, in the movie version of his life, this is where he launches the brand and becomes a star, right?
Absolutely not. And this is the part of the story that modern entrepreneurs often ignore. We're talking about the apprentice years.
Right.
1962 to 1967. This is 5 years of absolute grind.
5 years is a long time when you are in your early 20s.
It's an eternity. And he wasn't designing couture gowns for celebrities. He apprenticed at a place called Dan Milstein. The sources describe it as an old-line cloak and suit manufacturer.
Cloak and suit. Can we just pause on that term? It sounds so Dickensian. It sounds like they are making garments for chimney sweeps.
It does sound archaic, but that's important. The New York fashion industry in 1962 wasn't about art. It was industrial manufacturing. It was the garment district. It was loud. It smelled like steam and wool dust, and it was about efficiency. Cloak and suit meant mass-producing outerwear for the average consumer.
So he's not sitting in a studio with a glass of champagne sketching muses.
No, he's learning construction. He's learning how a shoulder seam bears weight. He's learning how fabric drapes when it's mass-produced. He spent those 5 years working at various shops, usually for tyrannical bosses, learning the physics of clothing. He is a technician first, an artist second.
That technical base must be why his clothes eventually fit so well. He didn't just draw them, he knew how to build them.
Precisely. You can't execute minimalism, which leaves you nowhere to hide if you don't understand construction. Everything has to be perfect.
Okay, so we get to 1968. He's done his time. He's ready to launch. And this is where the story pivots on what I call a sliding doors moment. It involves his childhood friend, Barry K. Schwartz.
This is one of the great what-if scenarios in business history. Barry Schwartz and Calvin Klein have known each other since they were kids. Schwartz has some capital, and he wants to start a business.
But his idea has absolutely nothing to do with fashion.
Nothing. He wants to buy a supermarket.
A grocery store.
In Harlem.
A grocery store in Harlem. Stop and think about that. We are teetering on a timeline where Barry Schwartz is managing a grocery store in Harlem, and maybe Calvin Klein is the produce manager. Or maybe Klein is just a guy who designs coats for someone else for the rest of his life.
It was incredibly close to happening. But Klein intervenes. He goes to Schwartz and makes a pitch. He says, essentially, do not buy the supermarket. Give the money to me. Let's start a fashion label.
Imagine the guts it takes to say that. Hey, I know people need food, which is a guaranteed business, but give me your 10 grand so I can make coats.
And he had a very specific vision to back it up. He didn't just say, I want to make clothes. He told Schwartz he wanted to design medium-priced clothes with a clean look.
That phrase again, medium-priced clothes with a clean look. It's so pragmatic. It's a business plan, not an artist's manifesto.
And that pragmatism is probably why Schwartz said yes. The quote is legendary. Klein asks for the money, and Schwartz just said, you've got it.
You've got it. $10,000. Boom.
That decision changed the global fashion landscape. Schwartz diverted the funds from the grocery sector to the garment sector. They launched in 1968. And Schwartz took the role of business manager.
Which is the unsung hero role here, because Schwartz handling the money meant Klein didn't have to.
Exactly. Creatives often fail because they get bogged down in logistics, in spreadsheets. Schwartz built a wall around Klein, allowing him to focus entirely on the aesthetic. But let's be clear about the glamour level here.
Okay.
Their first headquarters was a hotel room.
A hotel room.
They were renting a room, putting the coats on racks, and hoping buyers would stop by. It was scrappy.
And then the lucky break. The pretty woman moment, but for a coat designer.
The Bonwit Teller moment. Bonwit Teller was the department store for high-end fashion in New York at the time. Story goes that a buyer basically stumbled upon Klein's coats.
He just happened to be there.
Some accounts say he accidentally got off on the wrong floor of the hotel. Others say he was just wandering. But he saw the coats, he stopped, and he placed an order.
That's the spark. But a spark isn't a fire. To get a fire, you need oxygen. And in the New York fashion world, oxygen means social connections. You need a gatekeeper.
And Klein found the ultimate gatekeeper, Baron of Gunsberg.
The Baron. It sounds like a character from a Wes Anderson movie.
He essentially was. Baron Nicholas de Gunsberg. He was an editor at Vogue and Harper's Bazaar. He was European aristocracy, deeply embedded in the Manhattan social elite. He took a liking to Klein.
So you have the Bronx kid who knows how to sew a coat, and the European baron who knows which fork to use.
It's a Pygmalion dynamic. The Baron became his mentor. He didn't just teach him about style, he taught him about lifestyle.
What does that even mean in a practical sense?
He introduced Klein to the right people, the editors, the socialites. He gave Klein the stamp of approval. He basically vouched for him.
And in that world, the stamp is everything.
Suddenly, Klein wasn't just a manufacturer, he was the protege. And the reaction to his first major showing was explosive. The press immediately dubbed him the new Yves Saint Laurent.
Whoa, hold on. That is a massive comparison. Yves Saint Laurent was God in the fashion world in the late 60s. He was French couture royalty. Was Klein actually that good that fast, or was the American press just desperate for a hero?
It was a bit of both. The American press was desperate for a homegrown star who could rival Paris. But technically, yes, Klein was delivering.
Ow.
And he was delivering something YSL wasn't.
The clean look.
Right. Think about 1968 visually. What do you see?
I see hippies. I see tie-dye. I see fringe. I see paisley. I see chaotic colors and excess.
Exactly. The counterculture aesthetic was loud, messy, and textured. For Klein to come out in 1968 and say, no, we are doing beige, we are doing gray, we're doing sharp tailoring, no ruffles, no velvet, was incredibly risky. It was a rejection of the zeitgeist.
It's counterculture.
It was a return to adult sophistication. He was betting that American women were tired of dressing like flower children and wanted to dress like women. And he was right.
So the 60s launch him. But the 70s. The 70s orbit him into a different stratosphere. This is where we start talking about coats and start talking about the product that changed the world. Jeans.
1974. The turning point.
Before this moment, jeans were workwear, right? Or they were for teenagers. They weren't serious.
They were utility. Levi's, Wranglers, Lee. You wore them to fix a car or go to a protest. They weren't fashion. You certainly didn't wear them to a nice dinner.
And Klein looks at this denim fabric and thinks, I can charge a premium for this.
He realized that if you cut denim like you cut a couture trouser, if you focus on the fit, the lift, the silhouette, it becomes sexy.
Here.
He introduced the tight-fitting signature jean.
And the response was insane.
Insane is the right word. In the first week of sales, just the first week, they grossed $200,000.
200 grand. In 1974, let's do the inflation math on that. That is over $1 million in a week on a brand new product category.
It was a gold rush. It proved that the Calvin Klein name on the back pocket was worth more than the denim itself. It marked the transition of jeans from a commodity to a status symbol.
This is really the birth of designer denim. Every pair of $300 jeans you see today traces its lineage back to that week in 1974.
And importantly, he didn't sacrifice his critical reputation for this cash grab. Usually, when a designer goes mass market, the critics turn up their noses. They call it selling out.
That didn't happen here.
The opposite happened. In 1974, the same year the jeans exploded, Klein made history at the CFDA Awards, the Council of Fashion Designers of America.
This is the Oscars of fashion.
And he became the first designer in history to win the award for outstanding design in menswear and women's wear in the same year.
That is a flex. That is him saying, I can sell millions of jeans to teenagers and I can still outdesign everyone in the high-end salons.
He was untouchable. He won again in 81, 83, 93. He got the Golden Plate Award in 1991. He was on the International Best Dressed list. The industry respected him just as much as the mall shoppers loved him.
So, professionally, he is a juggernaut. But I want to weave in the personal side here. Because often when you see a rocket ship taking off like this, there is turbulence on board.
The timeline of his personal life tracks almost eerily perfectly with his business milestones.
He starts out with a very traditional narrative. He marries Jayne Center in 1964.
This is the before fame era. Jayne Center was the literal girl next door. They grew up neighbors, went to the same high school.
But they didn't date then.
No, classic misconnection. They met properly in college. They married right as he was starting his apprenticeship, so she was there for the grind.
Right.
She was there for the hotel room office.
They have a daughter, Marci Klein. And I have to take a detour here because this blew my mind. Marci Klein is a legend in her own right.
She really is. She's not just a Nepo baby coasting on the name. She became one of the most powerful producers in television comedy.
Like what? What does she do?
She produced Saturday Night Live. She was a key producer on 30 Rock.
So if you love Tina Fey, you partly have Calvin Klein to thank for producing her producer.
In a roundabout way, yes. But looking at the marriage to Jayne, it ends in 1974.
1974, the exact year the jeans launched.
Exactly. The year the business went supernova, the marriage collapsed. It's hard not to see a correlation. The lifestyle changed, the demands changed. He wasn't just a coat maker anymore. He was a global celebrity.
And then the 80s arrive, and he enters his power couple era.
He marries Kelly Rector in 1986. And this is a very different dynamic. Kelly was his assistant initially.
Oh, interesting.
They fell in love, and they got married in Rome during a buying trip.
That is the most 80s fashion sentence I have ever heard. Married in Rome during a buying trip.
It fits the brand perfectly.
Yeah.
Kelly became a very well-known socialite photographer. They were a stunning couple. They looked like they belonged in the ads. They were together for a long time, 20 years before divorcing in 2006.
And then we see another evolution. In the later years, specifically the 2010s, Klein's public life shifts again. He starts living openly as a gay man, or at least in relationships with men.
The sources show a clear shift. From 2010 to 2012, he was in a relationship with Nicholas Gruber.
And this made headlines not just because it was a man, but because of the demographics.
Nicholas Gruber was an ex-porn star, and he was nearly 50 years younger than Klein. There was a 47-year age gap.
47 years, that's a whole lifetime.
The tabloids had a field day. But later, in 2016, he began a relationship with Kevin Baker, a model.
It's fascinating to look at this arc. You go from the traditional heterosexual marriage in the 60s to the high society marriage in the 80s to this very open, modern queer life in the 2000s. It's like his biography charts the history of LGBTQ acceptance in America.
He lived through the eras where you had to be discreet, where a lavender marriage might be necessary for business. And he survived long enough to reach an era where he could just be himself.
Right.
And through it all, the brand never suffered. In fact, the brand's sexual ambiguity was always part of the appeal.
Speaking of appeal, let's talk about the lifestyle. Because Calvin Klein didn't just sell the clothes, he lived the movie.
If you wanted to find the center of American culture in the late 70s, you went to one place, the Calvin Klein house on Fire Island.
Fire Island Pines.
The Pines. This wasn't just a beach house. This was the clubhouse for the cultural elite.
Who was hanging out there?
Everyone who mattered. Andy Warhol was a regular. Steve Rubell, the owner of Studio 54. David Geffen.
So you have the king of art, Warhol, the king of nightlife, Rubell, the king of music, Geffen, and the king of fashion, Klein, all sitting on a deck in Fire Island.
Probably watching the sunset and deciding what the rest of the world will be talking about next week. Klein was right at the center of that disco, pop art nexus. He wasn't an observer. He was a participant.
He's living the life he's selling.
Exactly. He was partying in Studio 54 at night and designing the jeans everyone wore to Studio 54 the next day.
The feedback loop there is incredible. But as he got older and richer, the real estate shifted from party beach house to something more monumental.
We have to talk about the Southampton estate.
The concrete bunker.
That's a harsh way to describe a masterpiece, but yes. In 2003, he got a massive oceanfront estate in Southampton. It was a historic property. Most people would have renovated it, put up some shingle siding, kept it traditional.
But this is Calvin Klein.
He demolished it. He wiped it off the map.
Ah.
And in its place, he built a $75 million glass and concrete mansion.
I've seen pictures of this place. It looks like a supervillain's lair, but in a chic way. It's severe.
It's minimalist. It's the architectural embodiment of his clothing philosophy. No crown molding, no chintz, no clutter. Just light, space, and structure.
So his house looks like his underwear.
It proves that minimalism wasn't just a marketing gimmick for him. It was how he wanted to live. He wanted to control his environment completely.
It's amazing consistency. Whether it's a pair of boxer briefs or a $75 million house, he wants it stripped down.
He also expanded to the West Coast. He bought a place in LA for $25 million in 2015. He had a Miami Beach mansion that sold for over $12 million. He essentially created these temples of minimalism on every coast.
Now, I want to loop back to where we started, the idea of the name becoming a noun. There is one specific moment in pop culture history that cements this, And I think it's the moment he officially won the culture war.
Back to the Future.
1985. The biggest movie in the world.
It's the ultimate litmus test.
For the 3 people listening who haven't seen it, Marty McFly goes back to 1955. He gets hit by a car. He wakes up in his teenage mother's bedroom. She thinks his name is Calvin.
Why? Because she looked at his underwear.
She says, "That is your name, isn't it? Calvin Klein. It's written all over your underwear."
Now analyze that joke. For that joke to work in a mass-market blockbuster, the screenwriters had to be 100% certain that every single person in the movie theater, grandmas, teenagers, dads in the Midwest, knew that Calvin Klein was a brand of underwear.
If even 10% of the audience didn't know the brand, the joke fails.
Exactly. It implies total market saturation. It implies that Calvin Klein had become a synonym for underwear. That is the moment the man officially became a household utility.
It's free advertising worth millions, enshrined in cinema history forever.
And Klein clearly loved it. He wasn't precious about his image. He engaged with the comedy.
He did. He showed up on TV.
There was a fictionalized version of him in Seinfeld, the episode The Pick, where Kramer pitches him the beach cologne idea.
Right.
But Klein actually appeared as himself on 30 Rock.
In the episode The Bubble.
Which brings it all full circle back to his daughter Marci. It shows a level of self-awareness. He knew he was an icon, and he was willing to wink at the audience about it.
So when we look at this entire stack, from the Austrian-Hungarian roots to the Bronx tenements,
to the design school dropout phase and the cloak and soup grind,
to the sliding doors moment with Barry Schwartz and the supermarket money,
to the invention of designer jeans and the conquest of the art world with the CFDA awards,
and finally to the concrete mansions and the pop culture domination, it is a massive, sprawling life. But what is the takeaway? What is the nugget we hold on to?
For me, it's about the power of editing. Calvin Klein's genius wasn't necessarily adding things, it was taking them away. He looked at the chaos of the 60s and deleted the noise. He looked at a pair of jeans and deleted the utility to find the sex appeal. He looked at a house and deleted the walls to find the light.
He edited his way to the top.
Precisely. But I want to leave the listener with one final, slightly haunting thought.
Hit me.
Go back to that supermarket in Harlem. Barry Schwartz was ready to buy it. It was a done deal in his mind. If that conversation had gone differently, if Schwartz had been just a little more stubborn or Klein a little less persuasive,
then Calvin Klein is just a guy working in the garment district.
And you are wearing different underwear right now. And Back to the Future has a different joke. And the entire aesthetic of 90s minimalism, the Kate Moss era, the clean lines, maybe never happens.
Yeah.
The history of culture hangs by a thread.
Yeah.
Or in this case, a waistband.
I'm never going to look at a grocery store the same way again. It makes you wonder how many geniuses are currently stocking shelves because their Barry Schwartz said no.
It's a sobering thought.
Thank you so much for breaking this down with me. This was a true deep dive.
My pleasure.
And to everyone listening, check your labels. There's a story stitched in there. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.